In an English study session, when something quietly changes, a page that looked easy 10 minutes ago starts feeling heavy. A sentence you normally understand takes longer to process. You read the same line twice, then a third time, and suddenly you start wondering whether you are losing motivation or simply becoming bad at English. But that tired feeling is not always a sign that you should push harder. Sometimes it is a message about how your brain is handling the work. And if you learn to notice that message early, you can study with more focus, remember more, and stop turning every difficult session into a fight against yourself. Chapter 1. Mental fatigue is not the same as lack of motivation. The easiest mistake to make while learning English is to confuse tiredness with laziness. You sit down with good intentions, you open your lesson, you begin reading, listening, or practicing. Everything feels normal. Then 30 minutes later, your attention starts moving away from the lesson. You look at the same sentence for too long. You hear a word but do not process it. You start checking your phone. You begin thinking about food, messages, work, or something completely unrelated. Then you tell yourself, I am not disciplined enough. I always lose motivation. I should be able to study longer. But sometimes the problem is not motivation. Your brain may simply be overloaded. Mental fatigue happens when your attention has been working hard for a period of time and starts becoming less efficient. This can happen in any difficult activity: reading technical material, solving mathematical problems, making important decisions, writing, driving for many hours. And yes, learning a language. English learning can be especially demanding because several systems may be working at the same time. You are trying to understand meaning, you are noticing grammar, you are remembering vocabulary, you are processing pronunciation. You may be translating. You may be comparing the sentence with your first language. You may also be worrying about whether you are learning fast enough. That is a lot of mental activity. Imagine carrying 5 bags at the same time. Each bag may not be extremely heavy alone, but together they become difficult. Language study can feel similar. A short English paragraph may look simple on the page, but inside your mind, many things are happening. Take this sentence. I would have called you earlier if I had known you were available. A strong learner may understand it quickly. Another learner may process it like this. What does would have called mean? Why is had known used? Available means free. Is this conditional grammar? How would I say this in my language? Could I use this sentence myself? That is not just reading. That is multiple layers of processing. So when your brain becomes tired, the first thing you need to understand is this. Fatigue is information. It tells you that the way you are using your attention has become less effective. That does not always mean you must stop completely, but it does mean something may need to change. Maybe the task is too difficult. Maybe you have been doing the same kind of activity for too long. Maybe you are trying to study too many things at once. Maybe you are physically tired. Maybe you have not eaten properly. Maybe your environment is distracting. Maybe you are putting too much pressure on yourself. The important part is learning to identify what kind of tiredness you are experiencing. Let us do that now. Think about your last difficult English session. What happened first? Did you become sleepy? Did you become restless? Did you start rereading? Did you stop remembering what you had just studied? Did you become irritated? Did you start avoiding the exercise? Did you lose the ability to form sentences? Those are different signs, and they may point to different problems. For example, if you can still understand the lesson but feel bored, you may need variety. If you cannot understand material that was easy earlier, you may need a break. If you become anxious whenever you make mistakes, emotional pressure may be using part of your attention. If you are constantly translating, your brain may be doing unnecessary extra work. This is why saying, I am lazy, is not useful. It hides the real cause. A better question is, what exactly is making this session difficult? That question gives you something you can change. There is another thing many learners do. They compare their study time with other people. Someone online says, I study English 3 hours every day. You think, I can only focus for 40 minutes. Something must be wrong with me. But study time alone tells you almost nothing. 3 hours of distracted study may produce less learning than 45 minutes of focused practice. The goal is not to spend the longest possible time with English, The goal is to use your best mental energy well. Think about two learners. Learner A studies for 2 hours while exhausted. They read, forget, reread, check their phone, feel guilty, and continue. Learner B studies for 40 minutes with strong attention. They listen carefully, produce several sentences, review important language, and stop before quality collapses. Which session is more useful? Probably the second. This is an important shift. You are not trying to prove how hard you can suffer while studying. You are trying to create conditions where learning works. There is another reason this matters. If every English session feels exhausting, your brain begins connecting English with discomfort. You open a lesson and already feel resistance. You delay starting. You tell yourself, I will study later. That does not necessarily happen because you dislike English. It may happen because your brain remembers the last session as something mentally expensive. So one of the smartest things you can do is finish some sessions while you still have energy. That feels strange to learners who believe more is always better. But leaving with a little energy can make it easier to return tomorrow. Now let us make this practical. During your next study session, rate your focus from 1 to 10. At the beginning, maybe you are at 8. 20 minutes later, check again. Maybe 7. After 40 minutes, maybe 5. Do not judge the number. Notice it. Then look for a pattern. At what point does quality drop? What activity were you doing? What happens to your body and attention? If you learn your own pattern, you can design better study sessions. This also helps you stop using guilt as a learning strategy. Guilt does not create concentration. It usually creates more mental noise. Instead of, I should be able to continue. Try, my focus is dropping. What is the best next move? Maybe 5 minutes away from the screen. Maybe water. Maybe a short walk. Maybe switching from grammar study to easy listening. Maybe stopping for the day. That is not weakness. That is intelligent self-management. And this chapter gives us the first principle for better focus. Stop treating fatigue as a moral failure. Treat it as a signal. Once you understand the signal, you can change the system. In the next chapter, we are going to look at one of the biggest reasons English creates mental fatigue. Your working memory is trying to hold too much at once. Chapter 2. Your working memory has limited space. Imagine someone gives you a phone number. You hear it once. You repeat it in your mind because you do not want to forget it. Then, before you write it down, somebody asks you a complicated question. Suddenly part of the number disappears. Why? Because your mind has limited space for holding information temporarily. That temporary mental workspace is extremely important during language learning. When you read or listen to English, you need to hold parts of the sentence long enough to connect them. If the sentence is easy, this happens quickly. If it is difficult, your mental workspace becomes crowded. Let us take a simple sentence. I missed the bus because I left home late. Easy for many learners. You understand, missed bus, left late, cause and result. Now look at something more complex. Although I had planned to leave early, I ended up missing the bus because I spent too much time looking for my keys. Now your brain has to keep more pieces active. Although, planned to leave early, ended up missing, because, spent time, looking for keys. The sentence is not impossible, but it uses more mental space. Now imagine that several words are unfamiliar. The load increases again. Then you start translating. More load. Then you begin analyzing grammar. More load. Then you worry. Why am I so slow? More load. You can see the problem. Your attention is being asked to carry too much. This is why difficult English can make you tired even if you are sitting still. Your body is not moving much, but your mental system is working intensely. One of the best ways to reduce this pressure is to break information into smaller units. Do not attack a difficult paragraph as one giant block. Take one sentence. Understand the main idea, then move to the next. If the sentence is long, find its main structure. For example, although I had planned to leave early, I ended up missing the bus because I spent too much time looking for my keys. Main idea, I missed the bus. Reason, I spent too much time looking for my keys. Extra information, I had planned to leave early. Now the sentence feels lighter. This is called reducing complexity. You are not making English less intelligent. You are making the processing easier. The same idea works for listening. If you try to understand every word of a fast conversation, you may become exhausted quickly. Instead, listen for the main message first. Who, what happened? What is the speaker's main point? Then listen again for details. This two-stage process is easier than trying to capture everything at once. You can use the same method with grammar. Suppose you are learning a difficult structure. Do not study the rule, exceptions, pronunciation, vocabulary, and conversation use at the same time. First understand the basic pattern, then practice it, then add complexity. For example, I wish I had more time. Start there. Use it. I wish I lived closer. I wish I knew the answer. Once that feels comfortable, add more complex forms. Your brain learns better when difficulty grows gradually. Many learners create unnecessary fatigue because they always choose material far above their level. They believe, if I can understand very difficult English, I will improve faster. Not always. If the material is so difficult that every sentence requires a dictionary, translation, grammar analysis, and repeated listening, your brain may spend most of its energy surviving. You need material that challenges you without drowning you. A useful question is, can I understand enough to stay inside the message? If yes, the material may be useful. If no, make it easier. This does not mean avoiding difficult English forever. It means using difficulty strategically. Think about exercise. You do not become stronger by lifting a weight you cannot move. You choose resistance that challenges you but still allows movement. English is similar. Your practice should contain some effort, but effort needs to be productive. Another working memory problem comes from trying to learn too much vocabulary at once. You see a list of 50 words. You think, I will memorize all of them today. You read word 1, definition, example, translation, word 2, definition, example, translation. By word 20, the first 10 are fading. By word 40, everything begins mixing together. Then you conclude, my memory is terrible. Your memory may be fine. The input was simply too large. Instead, take fewer words and do more with them. Suppose you learn 5 useful phrases. Use each one in 3 sentences. Say them aloud. Connect them to your life. Review them later. That creates stronger memory with less mental chaos. Here is an example. Phrase, run out of. Use it. I ran out of coffee. My phone ran out of battery. We ran out of time. Now the phrase has meaning in several contexts. That is better than reading 25 definitions without using them. Your working memory also gets overloaded when you keep too many goals active. Today I will improve pronunciation, learn 20 words, study conditionals, watch a movie, practice speaking, read a chapter, review phrasal verbs, write an essay. That plan sounds ambitious, but your attention does not know what matters most. Choose one main goal for a session. For example, today I am practicing listening for main ideas. Everything else is secondary. Tomorrow, today I am practicing past tense storytelling. Clear target, less mental switching, better focus. This brings us to an important skill. Reduce the number of active decisions during study. Before you begin, know, what will I practice? What material will I use? How long will I work? What will I do when I finish? If you decide everything during the session, you waste attention. Imagine this. You sit down. What should I study? You open YouTube. Maybe this video. No. Another video. Maybe vocabulary. You search vocabulary. Then you see a grammar lesson. You switch. 10 minutes have passed. Your brain is already tired and you have barely practiced. Preparation protects attention. Create a simple plan before you start. Example, 20 minutes. 5 minutes easy speaking, 10 minutes listening, 5 minutes summary. Done. Your brain can focus on the work instead of designing the session. Now let us practice reducing load. I will give you a study goal. Improve speaking. Too broad. Make it smaller. Practice answering everyday questions for 15 minutes. Better. Another. Improve listening. Smaller. Listen to a 3-minute conversation and identify the main idea. Better. Another. Learn vocabulary. Smaller. Learn 5 phrases for talking about work and use each one aloud. Much better. Specific tasks use less mental energy because your brain knows what to do. There is another technique that can help when English feels heavy. Externalize information. Do not force your mind to hold everything. Use a notebook. Write down key words. Make a simple diagram. During listening, note only important ideas. If you are planning a speaking answer, write 3 key words instead of memorizing an entire paragraph. Your brain can then use its energy for language rather than remembering your plan. For example, you want to speak about your weekend. Write friend, restaurant, rain, now speak. Those 3 words guide your memory. You do not need a full script. This is especially useful for intermediate learners. You can support your thinking without translating everything. Over time, you may need the notes less. That is fine. Support is not cheating. Support helps you practice successfully. The key lesson of this chapter is simple. Your brain has limited working space. Do not fill every part of that space with vocabulary, grammar, translation, worry, and task switching at the same time. Reduce the load. Break difficult English into smaller parts. Choose fewer targets. Use easier material when necessary. Give your mind enough space to actually learn. Now we need to talk about something closely related. Because many learners do not only process English, they process English twice, once in English and once again through translation. And that extra step can be exhausting. Chapter 3. Constant translation can double the work. Translation can be helpful. It is important to say that clearly. When you are a beginner, translation can give you fast understanding. You see, bridge, you connect it to the word in your language. Now you understand. Useful. Translation can also help explain complicated grammar or clarify a difficult concept. So the goal is not to treat translation like an enemy. The problem begins when translation becomes the only way you process English. Imagine someone asks, "What are you doing this weekend?" Your brain first creates the answer in your first language, then searches for English words, then checks grammar, then speaks. That is a long route. Now imagine doing that for every sentence in a 1-hour lesson. Question, translate, answer internally, translate answer, check, speak, again, again, again. Of course, your brain becomes tired. You are effectively running 2 language systems at once. This is especially tiring when the sentence structures are very different between the 2 languages. You are not simply replacing words. You may be rebuilding the entire sentence. That is expensive mental work. The solution is gradual direct connection, meaning to English, not meaning to language 1 to English. How do you build that? Start with simple language. Look at a cup. Think, cup, not the translation, cup. Then, this is a cup. Then, the cup is on the table. This sounds too easy. But direct processing often grows from easy material first. You need moments where English is simple enough that translation is unnecessary. Here is another exercise. Look around your room. Name 5 things in English. Do not translate. Now describe 1. The window is open. The chair is near the desk. The room is quiet. Easy English. Direct English. This gives your brain a break from conversion. Now move to simple thoughts. I'm tired. I need water. I have work to do. I'm going out later. These thoughts can become automatic because they are frequent. Over time, the number of direct English thoughts grows. This is one reason repeated exposure matters. The first time you hear, "I'm looking forward to it," you may translate. After hearing and using it many times, the phrase can become a direct unit. Someone says, "Are you excited about the trip?" You answer, "Yes, I'm really looking forward to it." No detailed grammar calculation. The phrase is available. This reduces mental fatigue. You are not constructing every expression from zero. You are retrieving familiar language. Another way to reduce translation is to use English definitions for familiar words. Suppose you know the word borrow. Instead of borrow = translation, think, take something from someone and return it later. That English explanation creates more English connections. You can also connect words to images and situations. Borrow. Imagine borrowing a book from a friend. The word becomes connected to experience, not only another word. This is powerful because speaking happens from meaning. You want the English word connected to the concept. Another exercise is simple self-questioning. Ask, "What am I doing? Answer in English. What am I going to do next? Answer. What did I do this morning? Answer. What do I need today? Answer. Keep the questions easy enough to answer without translation. Do not begin with, what are the long-term socioeconomic consequences of artificial intelligence? You will probably need complex thinking. Start with ordinary life. Direct English grows through manageable practice. There is another thing to watch. Sometimes learners translate because they are afraid that simple English is not good enough. They have the idea, I was very tired after work, simple, but they want a more sophisticated sentence. They search for exhausted, mentally drained, completely worn out. Maybe those are useful, but if the search causes a 10-second pause, use the simple sentence. Direct simple English is often more fluent than translated advanced English. You can improve sophistication later. Communication first. There is also a reading habit that creates fatigue. Some learners translate every unknown word immediately. They read, the company decided to postpone the launch because of unexpected technical issues. Maybe postpone is unfamiliar. They stop, translate. Then launch, stop, translate. Then technical issues, stop, translate. By the end, the sentence feels like a puzzle. Try another method. Read the full sentence first. Ask, what is happening? Company decided something. Launch changed. Technical problem. Maybe you can guess postpone. Even if not, the context reduces the work. Then check the word. This is more efficient than interrupting your brain every 3 seconds. The same applies to listening. Do not pause after every unknown word. Listen to the sentence. Let the message continue. Sometimes later words explain earlier ones. Constant interruption breaks context and creates fatigue. There is another hidden form of translation. Grammar translation. You hear, I've been working all morning. Instead of receiving the meaning, you mentally say, present perfect continuous, have been plus verbing. Started in the past and continues. That grammar knowledge may be correct. But during real listening, it is too much. The structure should eventually become meaning. I've been working all morning. You understand, started earlier, still relevant now. That is enough. Grammar analysis belongs in grammar practice. It does not need to follow every sentence into normal communication. Separate study mode from communication mode. This can reduce mental load dramatically. Study mode. Notice structure. Ask why. Analyze. Communication mode. Understand. Respond. Continue. You need both, but not always at the same time. Try this with a short sentence. I've already eaten. Do not name the tense. What does it mean? The food is already finished. Good. Now. I was going to call you. Meaning. I had the intention to call. Good. Now. I wish I had more time. Meaning? I do not have enough time, and I want more. Good. You are practicing meaning without grammar labels. That is direct processing. Now let us talk about a mistake learners make when trying to stop translating. They force themselves. They become anxious. Do not translate. Do not translate. But the command itself takes attention. If translation appears automatically, do not panic. Just return to English. Over time, direct understanding grows naturally through repetition. The goal is not to eliminate your first language from your mind. The goal is to make English strong enough to function without always needing it. That process takes time. Be patient and notice the benefit. When English becomes more direct, your study sessions can feel lighter. You recognize phrases, you respond faster, you spend less energy rebuilding sentences. That frees attention for comprehension and communication. But even with direct processing, you can still become tired if you stay on one task too long. That is what we need to address next. Your brain does not only need easier processing, it also needs intelligent changes in activity. Chapter 4. Doing one type of English for too long drains attention. Have you ever spent 40 minutes doing grammar exercises and suddenly felt like you could not look at another sentence? Then, strangely, you played an English video and your attention returned. You were still using English. So why did you feel better? Because the type of mental work changed. Attention becomes tired when you ask it to perform the same operation repeatedly for too long. Imagine doing 100 identical math problems. Even if you can solve them, Your concentration may drop. Language practice can become the same. 20 pages of grammar, 40 vocabulary cards, 1 hour of difficult listening, 90 minutes of silent reading. Any single task can become mentally heavy when done too long. This is where activity rotation becomes useful. You do not need to change every 2 minutes. That creates distraction. But you can divide a study session into meaningful blocks. For example, 10 minutes reading, 10 minutes speaking, 10 minutes listening, 5 minutes review, same language, different type of attention. Reading uses visual processing. Listening uses sound processing. Speaking requires retrieval and production. Writing slows your thoughts and helps organize language. Moving between them can protect focus. There is another advantage. Skills reinforce one another. Suppose you read a short article, then explain it aloud, then listen to someone discuss the same topic, then write 3 sentences about your opinion. Now the vocabulary appears in multiple modes. You are not only preventing boredom, you are strengthening memory through variety. Let us build a balanced 30-minute session. Minutes 0 to 5. Easy warm-up. Speak about your day. Minutes 5 to 15. Input. Read or listen to something understandable. Minutes 15 to 25. Output. Summarize or respond aloud. Minutes 25 to 30. Review. Choose 3 useful phrases. That is a complete session. It is more mentally varied than 30 minutes of one exercise. You can also rotate difficulty. This matters. Do not make every block difficult. If the first 15 minutes are hard listening, your brain may need something easier next. Maybe easy speaking about your life. This creates recovery without leaving English. Think about your study session like a wave. Challenge, ease, not challenge, challenge, challenge. Challenge, collapse. You want sustainable attention. Another form of rotation is topic change. If you have been studying work vocabulary for 30 minutes, switch to something personal. Travel, food, daily routine, technology, stories. The new topic may reactivate curiosity. Curiosity is important because attention is not only mechanical. Your interest matters. Many learners choose material only because it seems educational. They force themselves through boring topics. You do not need to love every lesson, but you should use some content that genuinely interests you. If you love football, use English football analysis. If you enjoy history, listen to history. If you like technology, read technology news. If you enjoy cooking, follow recipes in English. Language does not need to be separated from your interests. In fact, interest can make difficult English easier to tolerate because your brain wants the meaning. There is a difference between, I must understand this because it is an English lesson, and I want to understand this because I care about the topic. The second creates stronger attention. Another useful technique is task switching with purpose. Do not switch because you are distracted. Switch because the block is complete. For example, I will listen for 10 minutes, then speak. That is planned switching. Random switching looks like listening, message, vocabulary app, video, Instagram, dictionary, another video, email. That destroys focus. So variety does not mean chaos. It means structured change. You can also use physical changes. After a reading block, stand up for speaking. Walk slowly while reviewing vocabulary. Sit somewhere else for listening. Small physical changes can refresh attention. Again, do not turn your routine into a complicated performance. You are simply helping your brain shift modes. Another problem is passive study. Passive study can feel strangely tiring because your attention keeps fading and you keep pulling it back. You watch a long English video without doing anything. After 20 minutes, your eyes are open, but your mind is elsewhere. Instead, create moments of activity. Pause after 5 minutes. Ask, what was the main idea? Say it. Continue. Later, what was one useful phrase? Say it. Now your attention has a job. Active engagement can keep your brain more awake, but active study can also be exhausting if every second requires response. Balance matters. For example, listen for 3 minutes, pause, respond for 1 minute, listen again. This rhythm works well. Another way to rotate is between precision and fluency. Precision practice means you care about correctness, maybe pronunciation, grammar, Exact word choice. Fluency practice means you keep communicating without stopping for every error. If you spend an hour in precision mode, you may become mentally tired because every sentence is being inspected. Switch to fluency mode. Speak freely for 5 minutes, do not correct, then return to precision later. The opposite can also happen. If you only speak freely, you may repeat the same mistakes. So both modes are useful, just do not combine them all the time. Here is an example of a 40-minute session. First 10 minutes, pronunciation precision, focus on one sound or phrase pattern. Next 10, easy listening, no correction. Next 10, free speaking, describe something. Final 10, review and correction. That is more sustainable than 40 minutes of pronunciation drills. There is another powerful principle. Stop before the activity becomes useless. If you planned 20 minutes of vocabulary, but after 12 minutes your attention is gone, continuing may not help. Switch tasks or stop. The clock is not your teacher. Quality matters more. Over time, your concentration can improve. You may be able to study longer, but longer should be the result of stronger focus, not the starting requirement. Now think about your current English routine. Do you spend too long on one skill? Do you mostly watch, mostly read, mostly study grammar, mostly memorize vocabulary? Where is the imbalance? Choose one missing mode and add it. If you mostly watch videos, add speaking. If you mostly study grammar, add simple listening. If you mostly speak, add reading for a new language. Balanced practice can reduce fatigue and improve learning. Now we need to talk about breaks, because many learners know breaks are useful but use them incorrectly. They either never take them, or they take a 5-minute break that becomes 40 minutes on social media. There is a better way. Chapter 5. A good break restores attention. A bad break steals it. You have been studying English for 30 minutes. Your focus is dropping. You decide, I need a 5-minute break. You pick up your phone. You open one app, then another. Short video, another short video, message, notification, news. 10 minutes later, your brain feels even more scattered. You return to English, but concentration is worse. Why? Because you stopped studying, but you did not rest your attention. You replaced one stream of information with another. A real break reduces stimulation. Your brain needs a moment where it does not have to process constant new input. That might mean standing near a window, walking, drinking water, stretching, closing your eyes, breathing slowly, making tea, anything simple. The important part is, do not fill every break with more information. This is difficult because phones make stimulation extremely easy. The moment your lesson becomes challenging, your brain wants something easier and more rewarding. Social media provides it immediately, but there is a cost. Rapid content switching makes it harder to return to a slower task. English reading suddenly feels even slower. So create a break rule. During short breaks, do not open high stimulation apps. That one change can protect focus. How long should a break be? There is no perfect number for everyone. A short session may not need one. A longer session may. You could use 25 minutes of focus and 5 minutes off, or 40 minutes and 10. The exact number matters less than whether the break actually restores you. Pay attention to your body. After a useful break, you should feel clearer, less tense, more willing to continue. If you return feeling scattered, the break may not have helped. There is another kind of break, micro breaks. These are very short, 30 seconds, 1 minute. You finish a difficult exercise, look away from the screen, relax your eyes, roll your shoulders, take a slow breath, then continue. These tiny pauses can prevent fatigue from building too quickly. Especially if you study on a computer, your eyes get tired, your posture becomes stiff. Physical discomfort affects concentration. English learning is mental, but your body supports the mind. If you are uncomfortable, your attention spends energy on that discomfort. So do basic things. Sit in a reasonable position. Use enough light. Drink water. Do not study when you are extremely hungry if possible. Move occasionally. These sound unrelated to English. They are not. Your brain is part of your body. Another important break is sleep. Many learners try to solve tiredness by drinking more coffee and studying later. But sleep affects memory, attention, and language processing. If you are consistently sleeping badly, English will feel harder. You may think, my vocabulary is getting worse. Maybe your brain is simply tired. This is why you should not measure your true English ability during your worst energy hours. Sometimes a learner speaks badly at midnight after a long workday and concludes, I am not improving. Then the next morning, the same learner performs much better. Skill did not change overnight. Energy changed. Learn when your strongest hours are, maybe morning, maybe afternoon, maybe evening. If possible, put difficult English there. Use lower energy hours for easier tasks. For example, high energy, speaking, grammar, writing, difficult listening, low energy, easy listening, review, reading familiar material, watching enjoyable English content. This is energy-based study planning. It can make a big difference. Another break principle is stopping at a natural boundary. Do not stop in the middle of a confusing sentence if possible. Finish the paragraph, complete the exercise, end the speaking topic, then break. This gives your brain a sense of closure. Returning becomes easier because you know where to continue. You can even leave yourself a note. Next, question 5. Next, listen again from 320. That removes restart friction. Now let us address guilt around breaks. Some learners think, if I stop, I am wasting time. But a break that restores concentration can save time. Imagine 1 hour without breaks. First 20 minutes, good. Next 20, average. Final 20, poor. Now imagine 25 minutes focused. 5-minute break, 25 minutes focused. That is 50 minutes of stronger attention. Maybe less clock time, more learning. That is the real measure. Another useful technique is changing environments during a longer study day. Suppose you study English twice, morning at desk, evening while walking with audio. Different environment, different energy. This can make English feel less like one heavy study block. Your learning becomes part of life. You can listen while traveling, think in English while walking. Describe your surroundings, read something short during lunch. Not every contact with English needs to feel like formal study. This reduces psychological fatigue too, because sometimes learners are not tired of English, they are tired of studying English. Those are different. If English appears in enjoyable forms, your relationship with it changes. Watch something interesting, read comments, follow a hobby, talk to someone, listen to a story. Language can live outside lessons. Breaks also work across days. If you have studied intensely for 6 days, one lighter day can help. You do not have to completely stop. Maybe easy listening only. Maybe a movie, maybe review. This is especially useful if you are preparing for a test or following an intensive plan. Recovery supports consistency. Without recovery, you may study hard for 5 days and then avoid English for 2 weeks. That is not efficient. A sustainable routine allows effort and rest. Now take a moment and think about your breaks. What do you usually do? Do you scroll? Do you leave your chair? Do you actually rest your eyes? Do you return refreshed? One small improvement could change your entire session. Maybe your next break is simple. Stand, drink water, look outside, no phone, 5 minutes, then return. Now we are going deeper, because even with perfect breaks, your brain can become tired if you are learning in a way that creates too many mistakes and too little success. Difficulty needs to be controlled. Chapter 6. Too much failure makes learning feel heavier than it needs to. Challenge is necessary. If English is always easy, you will not grow much. But there is a difference between challenge and constant failure. Imagine a listening exercise. You understand 10%, you replay, still 10%, replay, maybe 15. You feel frustrated. You check the transcript. Half the vocabulary is unfamiliar. You continue because you think hard material must be good material. After 30 minutes, you are mentally exhausted and confidence is lower. Was that productive difficulty? Maybe not. Now imagine another exercise. You understand 70%. Some parts are unclear. You listen again. Now 80. You notice several useful phrases. You summarize the main idea. That challenge is more useful. You were stretched, but you could still succeed. Your brain needs successful retrieval and understanding experiences. not only struggle. Success creates stronger motivation because you can feel progress. This does not mean avoiding mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning, but your practice environment should allow enough correct understanding and successful communication to keep the system moving. A useful principle is, make the task difficult enough to require attention, but easy enough to complete. This applies to speaking too. Suppose your level is intermediate. You decide to practice by explaining a complex scientific theory. You have the ideas in your first language, but the English is far beyond your active vocabulary. You spend the whole time searching. You feel terrible. Try a more appropriate speaking task. Explain how you organize your day, a problem you solved, a movie you watched, your opinion about remote work. Still challenging, but possible. You need a foundation of successful speaking, then complexity grows. Another way learners create too much failure is by correcting every mistake immediately. You speak. Yesterday I go. Stop. Wrong. Restart. Yesterday I went to. Another error. Restart. Now your fluency is destroyed. If you are doing fluency practice, allow the sentence to continue. Yesterday I go, went to the store. Done. Continue. Later, during correction time, review mistakes. This separation reduces mental pressure. Remember, practice has different goals. If the goal is accuracy, slow down and correct. If the goal is fluency, keep moving. Trying to maximize both at every second creates fatigue. You can also control difficulty through repetition. The first time you speak about a topic, it may be hard. The second time becomes easier. The third becomes smoother. Some learners avoid repetition because they think it is boring. But repeated speaking is one of the best ways to reduce processing load. For example, question. Describe a challenge you overcame. First attempt. You search, pause, make errors. Second attempt. You remember the structure. Vocabulary comes faster. Third. You can focus on clarity. That is useful repetition. The topic is the same, but the skill improves. Another technique is layered difficulty. Start simple, then add complexity. Topic: My weekend. Level 1. What did you do? Level 2. How did you feel? Level 3. What surprised you? Level 4. What would you change next time? Level 5. Compare this weekend with a typical weekend. Now the task grows gradually. Your brain adapts instead of being thrown into maximum complexity immediately. This is also useful for listening. First, listen, main idea. Second, important details. Third, useful phrases. Fourth, shadow one short section. You are not demanding everything on the first pass. That saves energy. Another form of excessive difficulty comes from perfection standards. You expect yourself to understand every word, pronounce every sound perfectly. Use advanced vocabulary. Speak without pauses. Remember everything after one study session. Those expectations create constant failure because no learner can meet them. Set better standards. For listening, can I understand the main message? For speaking, can I communicate clearly? For vocabulary, can I use a few new words later? For pronunciation, can I become easier to understand? For grammar, can I reduce one repeated error? These standards produce real progress. Perfection produces exhaustion. There is also emotional fatigue from self-criticism. You make a mistake and say internally, "That was stupid. I should know this. I am so slow." That commentary is not free. It uses attention. It adds stress. It makes the next sentence harder. A more useful response: "I missed that. Try again." Short, neutral, continue. You do not need to praise yourself constantly. You just need to stop adding unnecessary emotional weight. Think about a professional musician practicing. They play a wrong note. They do not have an identity crisis. They identify the problem. Repeat the section. Continue. Language practice can work the same way. A mistake is data, not a verdict. Here is a simple correction routine. You notice a repeated mistake. Step 1. Write the wrong form. I didn't went. Step 2. Correct it. I didn't go. Step 3. Make 3 new examples. I didn't go yesterday. I didn't see him. I didn't finish the work. Step 4. Use one example tomorrow. Done. No drama. That is efficient correction. Now let us talk about progress measurement. If you only notice what you cannot do, English always feels difficult. You need evidence of improvement. Once a week, ask, what became easier? Maybe you understood a video faster. Maybe a phrase came automatically. Maybe you spoke longer. Maybe you needed less translation. Maybe you remembered vocabulary from last week. Write one thing. This matters because your brain adapts gradually. Daily change can be invisible. Weekly comparison is clearer. Another useful idea is keeping easy wins in your routine. Not every session needs to challenge your highest level. Sometimes review languages you know. Speak about a familiar topic. Listen to something comfortable. This reinforces confidence and automaticity. Professional athletes do not perform maximum effort in every training session. Language learners should not either. You need hard days, medium days, easy days. That makes consistency possible. If every English session becomes a test of your limits, you will eventually avoid English. The goal is not to survive English. The goal is to build a long relationship with it. Now we need to examine another source of tiredness that is not inside the language itself. It comes from your environment. Your attention may be getting interrupted more than you realize. Chapter 7. Distraction is quietly using your mental energy. You sit down to study. Your phone is beside you. It does not ring. You are still thinking about it. Maybe a message arrives. Maybe someone replies. Maybe there is a notification. You check once, then return to English. It feels like a small interruption, but switching attention has a cost. Part of your mind remains connected to what you just checked. Then English requires you to rebuild focus. If this happens every few minutes, your brain keeps restarting. Restarting is tiring. This is why a 30-minute study session with 10 interruptions can feel more exhausting than a longer uninterrupted one. Your attention never reaches a stable state. Think about reading. The first minute may feel slow. Then you enter the text. You stop noticing the room. Understanding becomes easier. That deeper focus takes time. Notifications keep breaking it. So one of the simplest ways to reduce English fatigue is not changing English at all. Change the environment. Put the phone away, not face down beside you. Away, across the room, inside a drawer, on silent, whatever works. If you need the phone for audio, use focus mode and close other apps. Create friction between you and distraction. The easier distraction is to access, the more likely you will use it when English becomes difficult. And difficult moments are exactly when your brain wants escape. This is important. Do not depend only on willpower. Design the environment. If social media is one tap away, you are asking yourself to make the correct decision again and again. Better, remove the decision. Another environmental problem is clutter. Some people can focus in chaos, others cannot. If your desk is full of unrelated items, each one can become a small visual reminder. Bills, devices, food, work documents, random objects. Your mind may not consciously think about them, but the environment can still feel busy. You do not need a perfect minimalist room, just create a small study zone. Book, notebook, water, headphones, enough. This gives your brain a clear context. Another distraction is sound. Maybe your home is noisy. You hear conversation, television, traffic, people moving. If you cannot control the environment, use tools, headphones, white noise, low instrumental background if it helps you. But be careful with music containing lyrics. If you are reading English while listening to lyrics, your language system may be processing two streams. That can increase fatigue. Test what actually helps. There is no universal rule. Another distraction is internal. You sit to study English, but you are thinking about tomorrow's work. An argument, a task you forgot, a problem. You cannot always remove thoughts, but you can externalize them. Keep a small paper nearby. If something important enters your mind, write one keyword. Call the doctor, send email, buy groceries. Now your brain does not need to keep reminding you. Return to English. This technique can be surprisingly helpful. Your mind often repeats thoughts because it is afraid you will forget. Write them down. Release them temporarily. Another internal distraction comes from too many open study materials, 5 browser tabs, 3 apps, 2 notebooks, a vocabulary list, a grammar book. You are not studying. You are managing resources. Choose one main source for the session. Close the rest. This reduces decision fatigue. You can save interesting links for later. Do not let finding the best material replace practice. Many learners spend more time searching for English resources than using them. This creates the feeling of productivity without deep work. Make a rule. Choose material before the session, then use it. Another hidden distraction is checking answers too quickly. You do one grammar question, immediately check, question, check, question, check. The constant switching between solving and evaluating can be tiring. Try doing 5 questions first, then check all 5. Now your attention stays in one mode longer. The same applies to writing. Write the paragraph first, edit later. Do not inspect every word while drafting. Separate creation from correction. This reduces internal switching. You can also use a start ritual, something simple. Put the phone away, open notebook, set a timer, take one breath, begin. When you repeat this, your brain learns. This sequence means focus. You do not need an elaborate routine. Consistency matters more. Another powerful technique is a distraction list. At the end of the session, note what interrupted you. Phone, noise, hunger, thoughts, website. Then ask, which one can I remove next time? Improve one thing. Over several weeks, your environment becomes stronger. There is also the issue of digital multitasking. You watch an English lesson while replying to messages. You listen to a podcast while reading unrelated content. You keep English playing in the background while doing complex work. Some background exposure can be fine, but do not count it as deep practice. Your brain cannot fully attend to 2 demanding language tasks at once. If you want listening practice, listen. If you want work, work. Clear modes reduce fatigue. This is not about becoming extreme. You do not need to live without notifications forever. You only need protected learning periods. 20 focused minutes can be enough. Tell yourself, for the next 20 minutes, English gets my full attention. Then you can return to everything else. Focus becomes easier when it has a clear ending. Another thing that helps is visible progress. Use a timer or simple checklist. Not because the timer is magic, because it reduces uncertainty. You know, I only need to focus until 7:30. Your brain does not feel trapped in an endless session. That can reduce resistance. Now consider this. Sometimes your environment is fine, your task is reasonable, you slept well, you are still mentally tired. Why? Because your emotional state matters. Anxiety, frustration, and fear can consume attention just like distractions. This is especially important in speaking. That is our next chapter. Chapter 8. Anxiety can make English feel more difficult than it really is. You are alone. You speak English fairly well. Then another person enters the conversation. They ask a simple question. Suddenly words become harder. You know the answer, but your mind feels slower. Your mouth feels less natural. Why? Because now English is not the only thing happening. You are also monitoring yourself. How do I sound? Is my grammar correct? What if I forget a word? What if they think my English is bad? What if I misunderstand? That self-monitoring uses mental energy. The more attention you give to judgment, the less attention remains for communication. This is why anxiety can create real fatigue. A 15-minute conversation may feel more tiring than 40 minutes of studying alone. Your brain is doing language plus social threat management. The solution is not simply, be confident. That advice is too vague. You need to change the task. First, lower the goal. During conversation, your goal is not, speak perfect English. Your goal is, communicate one clear idea at a time. That is much easier. Question, how was your weekend? Do not try to sound impressive. My weekend was good. I spent Saturday with my family, and on Sunday I stayed home and rested. Success. Communication happened. Second, give yourself permission to pause. Fluent speakers pause too. A pause does not mean failure. Use, let me think. I'd say, that's a good question. I'm not sure, but. These phrases keep you in control. Third, use shorter sentences when nervous. Do not force complicated grammar. Instead of, although I had originally been planning to, say, I had a different plan at first, but. Clear. Simple. You can become more complex once you relax. Fourth, practice predictable situations. If job interviews make you anxious, practice common interview questions. If restaurant English is stressful, rehearse restaurant phrases. If work meetings are difficult, practice "I agree." "I have a question. Could you explain that again?" My suggestion is, prepared language reduces processing load. This is not memorizing a complete performance. It is making useful patterns familiar. Fifth, practice with gradual social pressure. Level 1. Speak alone. Level 2. Record yourself. Level 3. Send a voice message. Level 4. Talk to one supportive person. Level 5. Join a small conversation. Do not jump from private study directly into high-pressure public speaking and then judge yourself. Build tolerance. There is another emotional problem. Frustration. You expect your English to feel better than it does. You say, "I have studied for 2 years. Why am I still making this mistake?" That frustration creates tension. Tension makes the next attempt harder. Use a different perspective. Language is enormous. You can be advanced in one area and weak in another. Maybe reading is strong. Speaking is slower. Maybe everyday English is easy. Professional English is difficult. Progress is uneven. That is normal. Instead of asking, "Why am I still bad at this?" ask, "What specific skill needs more repetition?" Maybe past tense in stories. Maybe fast listening. Maybe the pronunciation of certain sounds. Specific problem. Specific training. Less emotional weight. Another source of fatigue is comparison. You watch someone speak English smoothly. You think, they are so much better. But you do not know their history. Maybe they studied for 10 years. Maybe they lived abroad. Maybe they use English at work. Maybe the video is edited. Comparison gives you incomplete information. Compare your current performance with your earlier performance. That is useful. Record yourself today, again in 1 month. Now you have real evidence. Another emotional drain is embarrassment about mistakes. You avoid speaking because you want to protect yourself, but avoiding speaking keeps speaking unfamiliar. Unfamiliar speaking stays stressful. The cycle continues. You break it with small, safe mistakes. Yes, safe mistakes. Practice where mistakes have low cost. Speak alone. Record. Talk to a patient partner. Your brain learns. I made a mistake and nothing terrible happened. That reduces threat. Over time, speaking becomes less expensive emotionally. There is also an important distinction between nervousness and inability. You may feel nervous and still communicate well. Do not wait for nervousness to disappear before speaking. Learn to speak while slightly nervous. That is a stronger skill. Say, "I can be nervous and still answer." Try it. "I can be nervous and still answer." That belief is practical. Another technique is slowing down deliberately. Anxious learners often speak too fast because they want to finish. Then pronunciation becomes unclear. Grammar falls apart. They become more anxious. Slow down by 10%, not dramatically. Just enough to give your brain space. You may actually sound more confident. Breathing also matters. If you hold your breath while speaking, the body becomes tense. Take a normal breath before starting. Again, simple. But physical calm supports mental access. There is another thing you can do after stressful conversations. Do not analyze only mistakes. Write 3 things. 1 thing I communicated successfully. 1 thing that was difficult. 1 thing I will practice. This balanced review prevents your brain from remembering only failure. Example: successful. I explained my opinion clearly. Difficult. I forgot vocabulary about deadlines. Practice. Review 5 deadline phrases. Done. Now the conversation becomes training material, not emotional punishment. This is a major theme across everything we have discussed. Mental fatigue often grows when English becomes too many things at once. Language, performance, identity, comparison, perfection, fear. Reduce the task. English is communication. Practice 1 skill. Improve gradually. That is enough. Now we need to discuss how memory itself works. Because learners often become tired trying to force information into memory through repeated reading, there is a more efficient way. Chapter 9. Stop rereading everything. Make your brain retrieve. Imagine you study 10 vocabulary phrases. You read them 5 times. By the 5th reading, they look familiar. You think, "I know them." Close the page. Can you produce them? Maybe not. Familiarity is not the same as memory. This matters because rereading can become mentally tiring without giving you strong retrieval ability. Your eyes keep moving over the same information, but your brain is not being asked to find it. A better method is retrieval. Learn something, look away, try to remember. That effort strengthens access. For example, you learn, I'm looking forward to, read it, understand it. Now close the page, complete. I'm looking forward to, your weekend, a trip, finishing a project. Use it. Now the phrase is active. Another example, you study 5 travel words, boarding pass, luggage, delay, departure, arrival. Close the list. How many can you remember? Say them. Now use each in a sentence. That is deeper practice than rereading the list 10 times. Retrieval feels harder. That is why learners sometimes avoid it. Rereading feels smooth. Retrieval exposes gaps. But the difficulty is useful. You are practicing the exact action you need during speaking. You need language to appear without the answer being visible. So your study should include moments where the answer disappears. This can actually reduce long-term fatigue because you learn more efficiently. Instead of reading for 2 hours, you may get stronger results from shorter active practice. Another useful method is spaced review. Do not review everything constantly on the same day. Review later, today, tomorrow, 3 days later, 1 week later. Spacing gives your brain a reason to retrieve. Suppose you learn a phrase Monday. It slipped my mind. Monday. Use 3 examples. Tuesday. Try to remember without looking. Thursday. Use it in a short story. Next Monday. See if it still comes. That is stronger than saying it 20 times on Monday and never again. You can apply this to grammar too. Learn structure. Use it. Return later. Example. I wish. Day 1. I wish I had more time. I wish I lived closer. I wish I knew the answer. Day 3. Answer. What do you wish was different? Day 7. Tell a short story using I wish. Now the grammar lives inside communication. Another retrieval method is summarizing. You watch a 5-minute English video. Do not replay immediately. Pause. Say, the main point was, try. Even if the summary is imperfect, your brain is retrieving meaning and language. Then listen again if necessary. This is active learning. You can also use blank page recall. After a lesson, write everything you remember, not everything from the lesson, everything your brain can produce. Then compare with your notes. You will immediately see what stayed and what disappeared. This is useful for serious study. But do not make it complicated. Even 3 remembered points are enough. Another reason retrieval helps is that it reduces the illusion of learning. When you reread, everything looks familiar. You feel confident. But the real test happens later when you need the information without support. Retrieval gives you honest feedback early. That saves time. Now let us connect this to fatigue. Why does inefficient review make you tired? Because you spend large amounts of time with low mental engagement. Your attention drifts. You pull it back. Drifts again. You reread. Your brain becomes bored and tired. Active retrieval creates clear tasks. Can I remember this? Your attention has a target. But retrieval itself can be tiring if overused. Again, balance. 10 minutes retrieval, then easy input, then speaking. You do not need to test yourself for an hour. Use short cycles. Another technique is interleaving. This means mixing related skills instead of practicing one pattern 50 times. For example, instead of 50 past tense sentences, 5 past tense, 5 futures, 5 present perfect. Then mixed questions. This forces your brain to choose the correct form. That choice improves flexible use. But if you are a beginner, do not mix too early. First learn the basics separately. Then mix. Difficulty should still be controlled. You can also retrieve pronunciation. Listen to a phrase, repeat, wait, say it again without audio, then compare. Now you are not only copying sound, you are reconstructing it. That strengthens spoken memory. Another powerful method is teaching. Learn a concept. Explain it simply as if teaching someone else. For example, what does used to mean? Explain. We use used to for something that was true or happened regularly in the past, but is not true now. Then examples. I used to live there. I used to play football. Teaching forces organization. If you cannot explain it, you may not understand it fully. You can do this alone. Your imaginary student does not need to exist. There is another rule. Do not retrieve everything. Choose a high-value language, phrases you need, grammar you use, vocabulary connected to your life. There is no point exhausting yourself trying to memorize every rare word in an article. Ask, will I probably use or hear this again? If yes, invest. If not, understand and move on. This is selective learning. It protects energy. Think about your vocabulary notebook. Is it full of words you never use? Maybe you need fewer entries, better entries. Instead of 50 random words, keep 10 useful phrases. Use them, review them. That creates stronger English. Now try a mini retrieval exercise. Without looking back, can you remember 3 important ideas from earlier chapters? Maybe mental fatigue is not laziness. Working memory has limited space. Translation can add extra work. Good, you retrieved it. Now say one thing you can change in your own study routine. Speak aloud. That action matters more than remembering every sentence in this class. Because the goal is not to memorize this video. The goal is to change how you study. Now we reach the final chapter. We are going to combine everything into a practical focus system you can use when English starts feeling heavy. Chapter 10. Build a focus system that matches your brain. You do not need to study English like someone else. You need a system that fits your attention, energy, level, and life. That system should answer 5 questions. When will you study? What will you study? How long will you focus? What will you do when tiredness appears? How will you review? Let us build it. First, choose your best study window. Think about your normal day. When is your mind clearest? Morning, lunch, afternoon, evening? Do not choose based on fantasy. Choose based on evidence. Maybe you want to be a morning person, but you are not. That is okay. Use your strongest available time for the hardest work. Suppose your best window is 7 p.m. Protect 30 minutes there. Second, choose one main goal. Not improve English, too broad. Try practice understanding natural conversation, or practice speaking about daily topics, or review travel English, clear target. Third, choose a session length. If you usually lose focus after 25 minutes, do not begin with 90. Maybe 25 minutes focused, 5 minutes break, then optional second block. You can increase later. Fourth, build a simple session structure. Example, 5 minutes warm-up, 10 minutes focused on skill, 10 minutes output, 5 minutes review, 30 minutes. Let us make several versions. Speaking day, 5 minutes of easy speaking, 10 minutes question practice. 10 minutes repeat difficult answers. 5 minutes note useful phrases. Listening day, 5 minutes of easy audio, 10 minutes focused listening, 10 minutes summary and response, 5 minutes review. Vocabulary day, 5 minutes review old phrases, 10 minutes to learn 5 new phrases, 10 minutes use them aloud, 5 minutes retrieval, different focus, same manageable structure. Fifth, create a fatigue response plan. This is important. Do not wait until you're exhausted to decide what to do. Create 3 levels. Level 1, mild tiredness. You are slightly slower but still learning. Response, change activity. Stand up. Switch from reading to speaking. Level 2, strong tiredness. You reread. Forget immediately. Attention keeps leaving. Response, take a real break. 5 to 10 minutes. No scrolling. Level 3, exhausted. You cannot process easy English. Response, stop studying difficult study. Maybe do easy listening or finish for the day. This plan removes guilt and indecision. You already know what to do. Sixth, use a focus check. Halfway through the session, ask, can I still understand and remember what I am doing? If yes, continue. If not, adjust. Do not ask, can I force myself? Wrong question. Ask about quality. Seventh, control your environment. Phone away. Only necessary tabs open. Water ready. Material selected. This sounds small, but it protects your mental energy. Eighth, use direct English when possible. During easy activities, avoid unnecessary translation. Describe. Respond. Think simply. Let English connect directly to meaning. Ninth, rotate modes. Do not spend every session on one type of task. Across the week, include listening, speaking, reading, vocabulary, pronunciation, writing if useful. You do not need all 6 every day. Spread them. 10th, review through retrieval. Close the notes. Ask, what do I remember? Use the language. Say it. Write it. Teach it. That completes the learning cycle. Now let us build a realistic weekly plan. Monday, 30 minutes, speaking. Topic, daily life. Tuesday, 30 minutes, listening, short conversation plus summary. Wednesday, 20 minutes, vocabulary and phrase review. Thursday, 35 minutes, speaking plus pronunciation. Friday, 25 minutes, easy reading plus response. Saturday, longer session if you have time. 45 minutes with a break. Sunday, light English, movie, podcast or review. This is only an example. The point is balance. You do not need maximum intensity every day. Your brain learns across time. Consistency matters more than punishment. There is another principle. End with something successful. Suppose your final difficult listening exercise was frustrating. Before stopping, do one easy thing. Answer a familiar question. Read a short paragraph you can understand. Repeat a phrase clearly. Finish with evidence. I can do this. That can improve how you feel about returning tomorrow. The emotional memory of study matters. You want English to feel challenging but manageable, not impossible. Another useful system is the minimum day. Some days are terrible. Work is heavy. You are exhausted. Life happens. Instead of skipping completely or forcing an hour, do your minimum. 5 minutes. Listen to something easy. Speak for 2 minutes. Review 3 phrases. Done. This keeps your relationship with English alive. Then on stronger days, do more. Consistency does not mean identical effort. It means returning. There is also a maximum. Yes, a maximum. If you know you often study too long and burn out, set a stopping point, maybe 60 minutes. After that, stop formal study. You can still enjoy English content, but no more hard practice. This protects tomorrow. Another important principle is progressive focus. You can train concentration. If 20 minutes is comfortable, try 25, then 30. Do not jump to 2 hours because someone online studies 2 hours. Build gradually. Your attention is trainable, but it needs recovery. Now let us talk about what you should expect after improving your focus system. You may still get tired. That is normal. The goal is not unlimited concentration. The goal is recognizing fatigue earlier and responding intelligently. You may notice you remember more from shorter sessions. You stop rereading as much. You translate less. You become less frustrated. You return to English more consistently. Your speaking feels easier because you are practicing when your brain has energy. Your listening improves because you are using appropriate material. These are real improvements. Now imagine 2 future versions of your routine. Version 1. You wait until motivation appears. Study too long. Choose difficult material. Translate everything. Check your phone. I feel tired. Blame yourself. Stop for several days. Version 2. You choose a clear time. 1 clear goal. Focused block. Manageable difficulty. Short break. Active retrieval. Stop at the right time. Return tomorrow. Which version will create more progress after 6 months? The second. Not because it is more dramatic, because it is repeatable. This is one of the most important truths about language learning. Your routine does not need to look impressive. It needs to survive in real life. A routine you can follow for a year will beat a heroic routine you follow for 1 week. And when your brain becomes tired, you do not need to insult it. You need to understand it. Maybe it needs less complexity, maybe a different task, maybe food, maybe sleep, maybe movement, maybe a break, maybe easier English, maybe no translation, maybe less pressure. That awareness is a skill. The better you become at managing attention, the better you can use the English you already know. Now let us finish with a short self-check. Answer these questions honestly. When does your English usually become tiring? What activity drains you fastest? How long can you focus well? Do you translate constantly? Do you take real breaks? Do you study difficult material because it is useful or because you think harder always means better? Do you study when your energy is already gone? Do you use your phone during breaks? Do you review actively or mostly reread? Do you give yourself permission to stop when the quality disappears? Choose one answer that surprised you. Now choose one change for tomorrow. Only one. Maybe. I will put my phone away. I will study for 30 minutes instead of forcing 90. I will stop translating easy sentences. I will take a real break. I will use easier listening. I will practice retrieval instead of rereading. I will study earlier. One change. Use it tomorrow. Then notice what happens. Do not rebuild your whole life in one day. Better focus is built through small adjustments, and better focus makes English learning feel lighter. Not easy every second, but more intelligent, more sustainable, more effective. That is what you want. The next time English starts feeling heavy, do not immediately decide that you are losing motivation or becoming lazy. Look at what your brain is being asked to do. Are you translating everything? Holding too much information? Studying material that is far too difficult? Switching tasks, checking your phone, or pushing long after your focus has disappeared? Better learning does not come from forcing your brain until nothing is left. It comes from using attention well, resting it when necessary, and returning consistently. Study with enough challenge to grow, enough clarity to stay focused, and enough recovery to come back tomorrow. Your brain does not need punishment, it needs a better system.